Why has it taken this long for Ben Affleck and Matt Damon to write another movie together? What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be giving you my review of The Last Duel, the latest Ridley Scott film. King Charles VI declares that Knight Jean de Carouge settled his dispute with his squire by challenging him to a duel. So before I give you guys my thoughts on this movie, definitely hit that like button, comment your thoughts on the movie down below, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future reviews, rankings, all that good stuff. So I want to mention right off the bat, Good Will Hunting is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I love Ben Affleck and Matt Damon as actors, so them being in this movie excites me, plus the presence of Adam Driver, who's just a modern powerhouse actor in this movie, excites me. So obviously I was excited to see what script Ben Affleck and Matt Damon put together, and I'm happy to say they are damn good writers, and this movie works. The way that they're able to write dialogue, it's just so easy to follow, and it locks you in because it just feels so natural. In Good Will Hunting, it's natural to that Bostonian dialect. In this movie, it feels very medieval, but it's also very investing. I think the script is enhanced by the excellent performances, especially Adam Driver and Jodie Comer, who Jodie Comer is the one that I believe is getting all the Oscar buzz, rightfully so. She'll probably get a nomination. Adam Driver has a pretty busy year. He could get nominated for supporting. And of course, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are great as well. They can really do no wrong when it comes to performances in my eyes, and across the board we've got some fantastic performances here in this movie. I think this movie's structured brilliantly as well. It's called The Last Duel, so obviously it's going to be building up to this epic duel, and we get hints of that at the very opening of the movie. The movie basically hints at what's to come early on. It kind of teases us and it says, hey, we're going to get to this eventually, but there's a lot of story to tell leading up to it. So it delivers a promise early on, and it does deliver on that promise by the end of the movie. And I really just enjoyed the ride, honestly. Like, I was basically tense for a majority of this movie because I knew it was leading up to that epic duel. It's much like in Jaws, how the opening, we see a brutal shark attack, and it's like, hey, there's going to be brutal shark attacks in this movie, but you got to wait a little because we got to get to know these characters. That's kind of similar to what Last Duel does. And one way the movie stands out is the way that we find out about these characters and the entirety of what makes the duel come about. We see this story told through like 3 different perspectives. It almost feels like in a murder mystery when you see events over and over from different perspectives, or if you've seen the movie Jackie Brown, you know what I'm talking about specifically, but that's exactly what Last Duel does, and I just love it when movies are able to kind of intertwine or go back over and show scenes from different perspectives. That just works for me. It's very fresh, and I feel like it adds another layer to this movie when it comes to getting to know the characters, because you feel like you might align with one early on, and then you see them from a different perspective, they're acting completely different, and you get a different viewpoint of them, so it's kind of twisting your mind as you watch it. And I think that's just something to keep the audience on their toes leading up to that duel. At its core, the movie also deals with medieval politics, and that's something that just always intrigues me. I love that side of the Game of Thrones TV show when we get to see different kings arguing over land or just disputes in general, or much like in Braveheart or Gladiator, and we get to see these higher-ups kind of just talking amongst themselves and the way they're going to go about running the land or just granting rights to certain people. Like, all of those different conversations always intrigue me, and that's what a lot of this movie is. Just seeing like medieval politics, like I said, those movies I usually enjoy when they're written well, and Damon and Affleck do a great job of honing in on these medieval politics and relationship conflicts that really make the movie interesting and investing for the audience. Now, with all that being said, there are some extremely difficult to watch sequences in this movie that are just straight up brutal. I almost had to look away from the screen actually because of how uncomfortable it made me feel. It's hard to watch, and that's the point. And I think it's really important that these scenes are in the movie because it goes to show Jodie Comer's character and the struggle she goes through. Jodie Comer's character is a really powerful woman in a medieval society that is extremely toxic, whether it's talking about religious beliefs, government beliefs, or even just like the male persona that's put on in this movie. Like, the way that Jodie Comer is just treated like an animal or like a pet that's owned by these different males, it's honestly really tragic, and it's unfortunate that this is the way history played out. I definitely have to give credit to Jodie Comer because she brought her all, and I fully bought into her character and seeing just the absolute tragedies she had to go through, and she really had to go to some dark places. So I think that she is the standout performance in this movie, and her character is a really strong woman. Now, the movie is on the longer side. It does clock in at 2.5 hours, and while the script kept me intrigued for the most part, I do feel like it can get a little redundant at times when it comes to seeing the same scene play out 3 times over and over again. Like, there's just the same scene that will play out, and you'll see it with different facial expressions, or just a little bit more of an inflection on certain parts of the dialogue. And I get it, like, we're supposed to be able to see these characters perceive the events differently, but as an audience member seeing it 3 times in a row, it can get a little kind of redundant and repetitive in my opinion. I feel like they could have trimmed some of the fat in those scenes and made it a little more succinct of a story. It's also one of those movies where the majority of the characters are just absolutely terrible people, but these are movies that I usually enjoy watching. I just like to see the awful events on screen and see how they impact other characters because I thought certain characters might be good guys at heart early on, and then you see their progression through different perspectives, and it's like, oh my gosh, these people are truly awful. And with a movie called The Last Duel, I'm happy to say the duel itself did not disappoint. It was really epic and cinematic, and it reminded me a lot of like duels you would see in Game of Thrones. And I know I've talked about Game of Thrones a lot in recent reviews, but hey, I feel like it definitely took a little bit of inspiration from that, and that's not a bad thing because it's arguably the best TV show ever. And lately, when it comes to like movie trailers and promoting things, there's just a trend of mismarketing. Like I could tell this wasn't going to be some massive action epic, and that's what the trailers and marketing are playing it up to be. That is not really the case here. It's a straight up dialogue driven story that is accompanied by some action sequences and of course the last duel, and that's totally fine by me because it's so well written and I was just locked in. That's all I need to have is like we have these really great scenes of dialogue where we get to know the characters and see events from different perspectives, and then there's a really dope final duel that this is all leading up to, and I'm all here for it. Because with the movie called The Last Duel and you're building up to an epic showdown, you gotta have to understand where every character's coming from to really kind of feel that emotional weight when they go to showdown. But again, just like with Dune, I'm interested to see how general audiences perceive this one because a lot of the trailers are making it look like some Lord of the Rings epic. That's not the case here. So while The Last Duel is not Ridley Scott at his best in my opinion, I do think this is a massive step up from his later work such as All the Money in the World, and I think that it's definitely set him on the right track to make some banger movies moving forward. We'll see how House of Gucci turns out later this year, but I really enjoyed this one, guys. It definitely kept me locked in for the most part. There are slower portions of the movie, but that's almost any movie at the 2.5 hour runtime, and The Last Duel itself did not disappoint. The performances were stellar. This is definitely a movie that I recommend if you're a fan of Ridley Scott or these medieval epics. I'm gonna give The Last Duel 4 out of 5 stars. It's a really good movie, honestly. I had a good time with it. Definitely on the slower side at times, but again, the script was so well written that it kept me engaged from start to finish. But that's going to do it for my review of The Last Duel. Definitely hit that like button. Comment your thoughts on the movie down below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you think it was a bore? Do you think that it was one of the best movies of the year? Let's talk about it all in the comments down below. And make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future reviews. DC fandom coverage coming right around the corner. Stay tuned for more content coming soon. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.